Welcome back to the AI Ripple Effect podcast, everybody. And today we're lucky enough to be joined by Denys Berg, who is the founder and CTO of Phleetto. Welcome to the podcast, Denys.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
It's great to have you here. Why don't you start by giving us a little bit of background about yourself, about what Phleetto does, and who your typical customers are?
So long story short, I have a degree in management, also studying in the Bachelor of Science, a degree, acquiring that. I have roughly 20 years experience in web development. Phleetto, basically we help manufacturing companies digitalize their supply chain. Right. And one of the things that differentiates us from the market is that we are a system that can be tailored to the workflows of the customer. So we have traction in Ukraine. We say roughly 400,000 pounds in equivalent to one of the customers. So that's been quite a journey since 2011. And now we're expanding to the UK. So that's the short story. You also ask about the customer. So the main customers is the manufacturers that order deliveries, long range deliveries by trucks, HGVs, over 10 tons, and roughly over 50, over 100 a month. That when it comes beneficial to users, our product. And of course, along with them comes the carrier, the warehouse people, the freight forwarders. But the main customer is, of course, the shipper, which is probably the manufacturer or the distributor, somewhere that. We're industry agnostic, but our main focus is packaging, food, metal, and furniture.
So, and your product enables those manufacturers or those product companies to facilitate their entire supply chain or transportation of that product from source to sig. So it's the end-to-end process, right?
Yes and no. We focus only on road. There's any ocean or air involved, that's not what we do. We're not specializing in that because what we specialize in is the trucks and not the last mile. Again, the last mile is something where you deliver parcels to the people inside an area. That's not something that we do. There's plenty of solutions for that. But what we do is we help them manage their long range, lane level, full truck deliveries across Europe or across the country. And the major advantage that we have is that we don't disrupt their current workflow. We seamlessly integrate with their current workflow, and we're not a marketplace so that they can, trade and bid. That's not about that. That's Sure. about having their current existing workflow on the next level with full visibility and digitalization.
Amazing. Sounds like a impactful product. So when you're dealing with all of your customers, both from a demand from your customers who are needing the transport, but also those companies who are transporting the product, what are the key trends that you're seeing across the logistics space specifically and within your segment?
Well, digitalization is a trend. The software expenditures in supply chain is expected to triple by 2033 UK. So it's currently at around 2 billion. I might be wrong, but I have the numbers in my back pocket over there. Anyway, it's a huge number that's growing, and the entire market is moving toward digitalization. Of course, the greater players have already invested a lot of money in digitalization. They have their products and systems. The smaller segments still hesitant, still working with the phone and email, but it's going. The flood is going, and the digitalization is there. So it's a matter of when, not a matter of if. And of course, the AI assistants. The AI assistants.
What's your take on AI in that whole ecosystem?
Yeah, so one part is the market adaptation, and the other side is how we use it. So in terms of market adaptation, there's surely great use of AI, but there's two sides. One side is that people using AI assistants in their daily workflow without having those assistants integrated in their systems. That's one part, and that's also proliferating. The other part is that when they have the system, but it is utilizing under the hood the AI assistants capabilities such that they can, for example, say, okay, I need to send out this order to those groups of carriers, and the assistants interprets those, does actually send out the materials and actually does the work. But of course, there's drawback because it can do simple tasks, but it might mess up the complex ones. And the other side is how we're doing it. Yes, we are doing it, and we have our own model, a machine learning model, which is predicting the prices. So we have a lot of data, roughly 10,000 shipments monthly. And that's enough data to actually understand the pricing tendencies and the dynamics of the pricing across the regions. And so what we do with the help of that model, also having the expertise in the market, we also have been able to make a prediction, which is accurate prediction of the pricing on the market. The delivery pricing by
Right, and that model's developed by yourselves. You're using a specific algorithm for that? Or?
We're using the technologies that are provided with Google GCP. There's capabilities of machine learning modeling, but our job was to gather the data, normalize the data, feed it onto the training, then test it out, and then configure the model. So there's a lot of that. And then that's the first part. The second part is to actually adjust the coefficients, because the pricing in the road freight, it's not about the regions and it's not about the quantities. It's about the resourcefulness of the region. So if I'm going from A to B, it's not about the distance, and it's not about even the volume or the weight. It's about me having the ability to come back with the load from point B to wherever I want to go. Which is something that machine doesn't know. So that's something that people have to understand, adjust. So having the machine do the prediction, that's layer number one. And then after that, you have to adjust it such that it follows those resourcefulness. And there's, of course, the market trends, the psychology of the people, roughly resembling the stock market.
So it's balancing traditional operations and demand and supply with new technology is the forefront that you're pushing. That's really interesting. Thanks, Denys. And from a perspective of Phleetto, I know you've been going for a few years. You're growing rapidly from Ukraine to wider regions. What have been the key milestones for you in your growth journey?
Well, of course, the break even was, but that was a long time ago. Of course, the major problem was the war.
Sure.
2022. That was a shock to the entire economy, but I think we managed it just fine. So yes, we had a problem, a big one, of course, but then somehow we managed to keep the business running. We saved the core people. We optimized. We reorganized. We adjusted. We adapted. And we've been growing ever since. So surviving that as a business, not as people of course, sure, but surviving that shock as a business was a great, unpredictable and unexpected, but it was a milestone as we're looking back onto it. And if we're talking about something except the war, we also were able to be one of 8 digital waybill providers in Ukraine. There's an initiative in Ukraine by the government to introduce a digital waybill or consignment note, whatever you want to call it. And my partner was the leading business expert working with the government, and we introduced that idea, and it was initiated, and the protocol was developed, and we successfully passed those certifications. And so in all of Ukraine, only 8 providers of software related to logistics were certified. One of those 8, that was also a huge milestone, which means that whenever anybody wants to digitalize and report to the government, they would have to go through one of those 8 providers, which we are one of 8.
So obviously, we've talked about the big challenge that was the war and is ongoing, the war, which is, a huge issue. But aside from that, in your growth journey, what have been other sort of more operational challenges that you've encountered, and how have you got over those as you encountered them?
Well, the constant growth of the user base and of the user scenarios is, of course, pushing the limit of the software capabilities in terms of performance and load. Right. That is something that we constantly work on because, well, what is high load? High load is having the load so high that you cannot manage it. We had those optimization sessions and hackathons, or how you want to call them, where we took the software, like did the entire overhaul and found the problems and fixed those problems, sometimes, speeding it up by thousands or even hundreds of thousands. So that was a big challenge, and it's ongoing. So as the user base grows, which it is, you will always see yourself facing these optimizations problems. Of course, there's a possibility to do the vertical scaling, where you buy additional capabilities in terms of hardware that has a physical limit. So sure, you still have to work with the software in order to be able to scale. And so this performance scaling is something that has been and continues to be a challenge as the user base grows. That's something that comes to mind right off the bat.
Right. And obviously the product in itself, you're optimizing through that challenge. But what about operationally? As you scale your business, obviously more customers means more back office processes. Is that a challenge for you guys as well, or are you managing to adapt?
Well, we have such a well-designed split of responsibilities with my partners, such
Right.
that we have people who are responsible for the operations or the product or the technical part or the sales and so on. And so for me, I'm not involved in those operational challenges or client-based or revenue-based
Right,
challenges.
right.
My challenges are technical.
Sure.
And so which allows me to free my partners from the technical challenges. That would be probably, I'm not the right person to answer that, but I also have my challenges as well, of course, as the team grows. So you have those HR issues. The market, the engineering market has changed significantly through the years. If in 2021 the candidate was the owner of the market, I'm not sure about the UK, but I'm pretty sure that in Ukraine it was. I can say for sure that the Ukrainian developers were in high demand. They were able to dictate their terms and put the pricing very high. Now it's completely reversed. They're struggling and there's problems over there. The prices have dropped, so they're not that speaky. They're searching for jobs for half years. There's also some operational challenges in the IT department as well.
Right. Interesting. And obviously you're now expanding into the UK. What are your plans for the next 12 months from the perspective of growing Phleetto?
Okay, so I should start by saying that we expected that launch to be unexpectedly difficult, but our expectation of that unexpectedness was also much less than it turned out to be. So we expected to have something in 6 months, and now it's 9 months, and we do have something, but it's going roughly twice as long as I expected it. Anyway, the plan is, of course, to continue the market research. So we've been doing extensive market research, various types of research. That's the thing that's ongoing. But as we realize that the application that we've developed, it's over 10 years old, now we should come up with a brand new design with very neat and clean UX, UI flows, which is something that we're doing now. So in the next 3 to 6 months, we're probably going to deploy the first version of the updated design with the stable backend, with the stable system that we've been testing for those 10 years, and deploying the first version and then actually requiring the first customers, because currently we're only having discussions with no letters of intent, nothing like that. We have to show them something. And there's, of course, the work on not only on the UI redesign, but also the localization, because there's miles, there's kilometers, there's pounds, there's date formatting, and all of those small updates, but not even the small ones. You should understand that the supply chain business is highly regulated, and it's also very offline-ish. One thing is you keep track of all of that in your digital system, but the actual work is done offline with the people in the steering wheel, in the truck, and exchanging papers and all of that. We would have to change the not only the styling and the format of the data, but also the entire flow.
It sounds as though you're making a very robust platform that will then enable you from that foundation to scale your business successfully, giving outcomes to those customers that they want.
Of course, we don't want to just dive in and try out as it goes. We did that already in Ukraine. We were successful as we tried out our product, but now that we have a tested product, that we have a stable product, we have that knowledge that we cannot just go to the market and say, hey, we have something we've been developing, let's give it a try. No, we want to have something, as you said, robust and tested and verified with a focus group. As my partner puts it, we act as if we don't have a second chance.
Good. That's probably a wise adage to anybody who's starting a business. So listen, that's great, Denys. And for the folks out there who are listening, who are interested in looking up details about Phleetto and what you guys do, where can they go? What's the best source of information?
But probably LinkedIn would be the best way to contact me.
Okay. Well, I mean, everybody, I'm sure, is on LinkedIn. They can get in touch with you directly. And I'll make sure that we put that in the description of this podcast so people can find you on LinkedIn and make sure they connect with you. So listen, Denys, really appreciate your insights and your vision. Your product sounds as though it's almost ready to launch out, and it sounds as though it's going to do a great job and replicate what you've already achieved in the Ukraine. Listen, thanks to you for your time. Thank you to everybody for watching. Again, we'll see you in the next episode of the AI Ripple Effect podcast. Denys, thank you again.
Thank you.